Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. My name is Faustine Chan. I am the Business Innovation Manager for BBB serving the Pacific Southwest. We hold daily webinars with different themes throughout the week, so we hope you can join us for another webinar during this week as well. This webinar is being recorded. It will be available for you on events.bbcommunity.org if you miss any part of it or if you need to review the information. And you can also sign up for additional webinars on that page as well. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, please go ahead and type them in the chat option or the Q&A, and we can answer those at the end. I want to go ahead and introduce our speaker for today. We have Cindy Gordon. She is the founder of Business Rescue Coaching, a business boutique coaching firm that provides a unique leadership experience to business owners who are overwhelmed by the challenges that arise from the growth of their business. She has 20 years of experience of a Canadian CPA, expertise as a certified coach. Cindy helps business leaders achieve meaningful change that creates their desired outcomes more rapidly with less resistance. Cindy is also proud of being known as a coach who helps her clients experience more success with less stress. So please welcome our speaker today, Cindy Gordon.
Thank you so much, Faustine, and thank you everybody for joining me today and welcome. Um, we are definitely going through some very interesting times. Who would have even imagined a few months ago that our world would have been turned upside down like this? But as business owners and leaders, we have never been challenged as we are now to view our companies and our offerings through a different lens. And every one of us needs to be innovative to adapt our business to ride the storm of these changing times. So, for some, innovation might not be as challenging as they think it is. So, today I hope to offer you some ways to infuse innovative ideas into your business to move it forward and hopefully come out further ahead when we move out of the social distancing. And while some industry sectors have been hit harder or differently than others, rethinking our business model is crucial to riding this wave. So, today I'm going to talk about innovation and the need to embrace an entrepreneurial mindset. We're going to talk about what an entrepreneurial mindset is. We're going to look at um, what can restrict our abilities to be innovative and how we can move through it and deal with it. And finally, how to ignite that sort of culture or philosophy of innovation within your organization. So I think we all realize that things aren't going to go back to the way they were. We're entering into what people are calling the next new normal. To help us get through these times, we really need to rethink the way we're doing business. So it really is a prime time for innovation. And, you know, the definition of innovation is a new idea or creative thoughts, new imaginations in the form of a device or a method. And innovation is often viewed as the application of better solutions that meet new requirements or unarticulated needs or existing markets. There's a great quote in Mark Twain's autobiography, and he said, "There's no such thing as a new idea. It's impossible. We simply take a lot of old ideas and put them into a sort of mental kaleidoscope. We give them a turn, and they make new and curious combinations. And we keep turning and making new combinations indefinitely, but they're the same old colored pieces of glass that we've been using throughout all our ages." So while we might think that innovation is stepping out of the box of our current business model, it's not about coming up with new or unique ideas. It's more about adapting what you're doing to fit the current situation and needs. It may feel like you're pushing the boundaries of your imagination to see ways of doing business differently. And at times that can put an undue amount of pressure on you and your team to come up with something that's, unique and it's never been done before. Excuse me, but think about companies who have been known as disruptors, like Airbnb and Uber. They didn't come up with something that has never been done before. They just put a modernized spin on their industry. So, my first nugget of advice is Don't put too much pressure on yourself and your team to innovate something that's completely new. Don't make the process of innovation huge or hard. That in itself will close you up to new possibilities. We think of an entrepreneur as a person who starts a business for the sake of making profit and is willing to incur the necessary risks involved with the endeavor of being successful. And, you know, to understand what drives motivation, we really need to get to understand that entrepreneurial mindset. And why would somebody want to take on these undue risks to start a business? Why would a person want to, go through sleepless nights, never-ending work days, and making all those sacrifices to be a business owner? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and one of them is that they're crazy. But at the root of all of this, at the root of being an entrepreneur, it's that real drive to solve a problem. And it might not be a unique problem that you find. It might be the same problem that other companies, your competitors, are trying to resolve, but you bring a little bit of a different angle, a little slant, something that is unique specifically to you in the problem solving forum. So I often ask people, what's the difference between an entrepreneur and a small business owner? And people don't really have a quick response to that. Some people say that an entrepreneur is like a newer business owner. Well, a business owner has been in the business for a number of years, but I see it a little differently, and I want to offer you my definition. A business owner, a small business owner, is someone who has stopped looking to solve problems, and they, keep dealing with the problems within their company the same way, and they don't look for additional problems that their target market has to expand their services, to expand their revenues. And what we do know is that business owners, entrepreneurs who continuously find new problems within their target market and provide new solutions really grow their business at a much faster pace. So I invite you to be part of this journey and start by asking yourself, am I an entrepreneur or am I a small business owner? And because you're participating in this webinar, my guess is that you do see yourself as an entrepreneur, that you're hungry to find solutions to your customers' current challenges and the challenges that you're facing within your business. Or maybe I just sparked something in you that says, okay, it's time for me to put back that entrepreneurial hat. So when you think of it, there's never a time when we don't have a multiple number of problems to solve. But the true entrepreneur forges through, looking for ways to solve each problem as they come along. Whether it's, again, within their business, operational or financial challenges, or current or new challenges that their clients are solving. So I noticed that small business owners tend to try to solve the problems with the same solutions. So they keep trying the same things over and over. And they get frustrated that things don't work and they blame the team members or, just come up with excuses why things aren't going well for them. But it really does take putting on a new set of glasses, looking at things through a different lens to find different creative ways of coming up with solutions. And the good news is, within each of us, whether you are the entrepreneur or you are a non entrepreneur or part of the team, there are components within you, there are aspects of that entrepreneurial mindset within you. And we're going to talk a little later about the characteristics that have been found through research that are common to that entrepreneurial mindset. But my intention is to get you thinking about which of those qualities, those entrepreneurial mindset qualities, are authentic to you, and who within your workforce can provide you with support in those areas where you're not as naturally inclined. And the task of innovation shouldn't be limited to a small group of people. We really need to be able to access the pool of ideas from an array of people to help us find solutions. The bad news is we only know what we know. And it's what we don't know that really holds us back. And sometimes when we turn to the same group of people, we get the same solutions because they have created this belief that this is the mold that we have to work within. Okay. So when you look at innovation within your organization, we're going to also invite you to think about who are the right people to keep in mind. Who are the people to include into this entrepreneurial team that you're going to be creating? So, um, as I said, we're going to be talking about those entrepreneurial qualities to help us innovate in just a minute. But I want to talk about, um, what problems can I solve? So, we have been given through social isolation, COVID 19, a lot of time to stop and think. And it might not feel like you have more time because you might be scrambling to try to drum up some business or, apply and understand all of these relief stimuli or just figuring out how to manage your team in a different way. However, taking the time to connect to your customers and staying on top of problems that others are having is essential to being innovative during these times. So think about, are you getting in the way of the innovative process? What are the priorities that you're putting in front of truly understanding what your clients are going through? Our emotions can get in the way of our ability to see innovative ideas in our business. And when we live in emotions such as fear, anxiety, and stress, we can become so overwhelmed by self defeating thoughts and ideas. So there's no room for innovation to evolve. I refer to these types of emotions as contracting because they not only contract our bodies, but they contract our minds too. So, for example, if you're worried about meeting next month's payroll, and believe me, you have every reason to be stressed and anxious about this, these emotions are going to trigger thoughts about like laying off or furloughing people or cutting salaries. And the contracting emotions create thoughts that stem from scarcity. So it puts us in what we call a fixed mindset. And the fixed mindset says that this is the hand that I've been dealt with, and there's nothing I could do about it. So, from that place, how can anybody be innovative? Our emotions can take over and, just really overshadow any rational thoughts. So, being aware of our emotions and seeing how they're impacting your mindset is really a great first step to helping you be innovative during these times of challenge. And we can shift our emotions, which in turn can shift our mindset. So, moving out of that fixed mindset, moving into a growth mindset, puts you in the perspective of, okay, I don't have the cash flow to meet payroll for next month today, but I am going to find a way to do that. I'm going to find a way to get that money. Excuse me. And when we're in the growth mindset, we open ourselves up to new ideas. Remember, we're all human and all of the emotions that we experience are good. But being aware of your emotional state will help you see how you might be limiting the abilities to come up with new solutions. So, how do we start taking control of our emotions? Well, the first step is becoming aware. We can only change what we're aware of. And our bodies are great signals. They provide us with great signals of our emotions. So we can hold our emotions in different areas of our body. So you might be experiencing emotions through tightness in your lower back or your shoulders. You might get that, pain in your neck from stress. Or sometimes you might feel your heart racing or beating strongly if you're excited. So whether it's the emotions like fear or anxiety or even joy and excitement, it's really valuable to notice, acknowledge, and move through them. Take a few minutes, like on a regular basis, right now, to notice the signs of the emotions within your body. And it brings you to that conscious state to move forward. And so there's a great saying that goes, fear is excitement without breath. And breathing is a tool that can help us shift out of contracting emotions to help us be more innovative. And I want to offer you a really simple practice that you could do anytime. And it's just regulating and focusing in on your breathing and moderating it through a count of four. So you would inhale for 4 beats, hold your breath for 4 beats, and then exhale for 4 beats. So it would look like something like this. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. And if you continue that pace of breathing and inhaling for 4, holding for 4, and then exhaling for 4, do that for about 5 minutes when you're feeling stressed or scared or anxious. You will definitely feel the emotions in your body release and your mind start opening up. It's also important to know that emotions and your mental capacity are impacted by what you eat. So if you're feeling down, if you're like me, all I want to do is have carbs or junk food, or to me it's salt. Um, think about, putting in some good food into your body, like fruits and vegetables or healthy fats, nuts. There's a reason a walnut looks like a brain, because it is really brain food. And again, that's going to help you um, clear out your mind and open it up to possibilities. Okay, so now we're sort of in control of our emotions, and we can, start looking at what it takes to be an entrepreneur. What are those entrepreneurial characteristics? And, Albert Einstein, so brilliant, but this quote is so pertinent now. We can't solve our problems with the same things we used when we created them. Sorry, we can't solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So people who are dealing with, unique problems that have arisen from COVID-19 cannot use their old way of thinking to get through these challenges. And the entrepreneurial mindset and the qualities that relate to it are the tools we need to find the solutions to these problems. So I work with an assessment called the Entrepreneurial Mindset Profile, the EMP. And for a long time, I avoided all types of assessments because while I believe that they provide useful information, many of these assessments out there tend to put people in boxes, and they're not really used, I think, the way they have been designed to be used or intentionally be used. Um, when we use an assessment as a starting point for self awareness and growth, that's when the real strength of the information comes out. And I've seen too many organizations take, disc assessments or whatever it is and just label people. But the EMP assessment is really a starting point for that self awareness as an entrepreneurial, in that entrepreneurial mindset. And, what we do in the debrief is we focus on the outcomes of the participant that they achieve from the questions, but look at the outcomes based on the goals that they're trying to achieve. And that's when it makes it really, really, really relevant. So, just a little bit of a background, the EMP came about back in 2010 when a consultant was looking for, sort of a comprehensive assessment on the entrepreneurial mindset. And she was working with a team of leaders who wanted to drive growth and innovation into their organization. And they believed that the component that was essential to this was that entrepreneurial mindset. So, not being able to find any sort of available tool out there, she turned to some colleagues at Eckerd College in St. Petersburg, Florida. And with support with the college's Leadership Development Institute, the three researchers started to look at, the characteristics and the motivations and the skill sets that distinguished entrepreneurs from non-entrepreneurs. that being the entrepreneurial mindset. And from that, they were able to develop this assessment. So the research looked at both entrepreneurs and non-entrepreneurs, which are more corporate managers, to identify those unique qualities. And what they were able to find were 14 of the most relevant and common scales. Seven of these scales reflect the more hardwired traits or the personality dimensions, and seven are reflective of skill sets that were commonly found. And what was really interesting also is from their data, they were able to set norms for both the entrepreneur and the non entrepreneur levels. So, again, what makes this assessment so relevant is as we talk about innovation, we now have a framework of specific scales, specific traits and skill sets that we can look at to develop that great team for innovation. And that really is going to drive the effectiveness of the team, as you see when we discuss the different traits and the different scales of it. And it's really interesting because when we look at some of the greatest companies, they have been leveraging that entrepreneurial strengths in their workforce, and that's also called the intrapreneurial strengths. We've seen creations like Post-it notes and Gmail and the Facebook like symbol. Those were created by employees who had a little different, take on the customer's needs than the leaders did, and were able to come up with these great ideas. So being successful in times of challenge requires innovation, and the responsibility for innovation has to come from like really everybody in your organization. And that's going to be based on how they can contribute their entrepreneurial strengths. So I want to give you just a quick look at what a sample result would look like from the entrepreneurial mindset assessment. And what you would get is this type of graph for both the personality traits and for the skill set traits. And it shows you, so the red line are the outcomes of the questionnaire for the participant, and they're grafted against the green line, which is the norms of the entrepreneurs that have been found through research, and the norms of the non-entrepreneurs. And the reason I'm showing you this is because as I talk about the different scales to help you start thinking about if those are the strengths that you have or team members have, I'm going to be talking about them in terms of the high levels. And, we tend to think of high levels as like high numbers, and not necessarily so in this situation, because high numbers could be just based on the gaps that we're seeing between the participants numbers and the norm numbers. Okay, so if the norms are sort of lower here, a higher participant might be in this scale. So keep in mind that part of it, yes, the number that you would get on your assessment, the higher it is, might have that stronger likelihood for having that natural tendency. But also, we talk about the difference in the gaps between the norms. And what I find interesting is that when I start to debrief the assessments with participants who've taken it, the first reaction is those high numbers are great, strengths, I'm fabulous in that, and the low numbers are bad. And again, that's not necessarily true. And that's why, again, I like this assessment because it really is based on the interpretation of the numbers. So, for example, if this was a CPA client, right, we would look at risk acceptance for an example. And we tend to think that CPAs have a bit of a lower tolerance for risk. So some number like this that is larger than the two norms might cause a bit of a conversation, might cause a little bit of curiosity. And it would be about, the conversation would be more about, how is this useful in your business? and to help you achieve your goals, and how might it come into, play to not sort of help you. So again, I just want to put out that when you think about the strengths or your aptitude in certain things, there's no right or wrong, there's no good or bad. It's just looking at it from a different lens of how can this help me move forward in my goals and be more entrepreneurial. Okay? So let's get a better understanding of each of these scales. So you could start thinking about how they apply to you. And if they aren't something that naturally resonates and speaks to you about who you are, who within your team could, sort of fill in those gaps, to provide that all encompassing, all the traits within your innovation team. So independence, we see people with high levels of independence prefer to set their own direction. They may enjoy being part of a team, but only when the team is being made up of competent and fairly autonomous people. So even though they may enjoy collaboration, people with the independence trait are able to work comfortably in situations in which no one is providing them with structure or guidance. So innovation really speaks to the comfort of doing things in a different way, outside of the normal structure. And people who are independent are likely to help break the walls of the company's normal structure to bring out new possibilities. Preference for limited structure. We find that people who have a high preference for limited structure are able to flourish under highly ambiguous situations. They're energized by the opportunity to create something from nothing, whether it's a new product or service or system. And they find that they're most effective when they're given plenty of latitude in solving problems. And they typically don't need that step by step process to get things done. So you could see just from this definition how these people have really helped to create a fertile ground for innovation. If you feel comfortable standing out from the crowd, then you're probably going to score higher on this nonconformity. Nonconformists are more likely to take an unpopular stand, to challenge those commonly held views, or even to play the devil's advocate. So their willingness to go against the grain can be really useful in preventing that sort of groupthink, where everybody agrees with each other. And this is really important in innovation, going against the grain and coming up with different types of ideas. High scorers on risk acceptance are generally willing to take risks in order to achieve their desired outcomes. And especially when they see that there's a good potential for high payoff. These people are more likely to be seen as risk takers by other people. They're sort of known as they're going to take the risks. And they believe that the only risk is the lost opportunity of not doing anything. So the bold decisions that they can bring to the table definitely play a positive part in the innovation process. So having people who have that tolerance for risk is a great addition to the group. People who score high on action orientation are likely to take quick and decisive actions to solve problems and make things happen. They tend to feel comfortable making decisions even under conditions of uncertainty. So they're likely to see greater danger in not taking action than taking action based on incomplete information. So think about if you have a decision maker, or if it's just in your nature to be highly action orientated and have that high level of risk acceptance. You might want to just keep an eye on that balance, because it's very easy to sort of jump the gun on an idea when you're in that innovation process before looking at other options. Passion. People who score high in passion are more likely to enjoy spending long hours working. They're likely to feel both challenged and fulfilled by work. And these people provide energy and commitment to the innovation process because of their commitment to the company and their mission. So they're willing to do whatever it takes to solve the problem at hand. So passion is a really important quality to have. And then the last scale under the personality traits is need to achieve. And people who have a high need to achieve have a strong desire to excel in their career. They have very high standards for themselves and they don't consider mediocrity an option. So in the innovation process, these people provide that sort of push to raise the bar on the excellence of the service or the ideas that we're providing and the level of excellence that we're providing for our customers. So take a second and just think about these traits, right? And what is your inclination about which traits are sort of authentic to you? Where are your strengths lying? And write down maybe some notes about who are some of your team members that have some of the other traits that you might not be strong in. Okay. So let's do the same kind of look at the skill scales. And we're going to start off with future focus. So people with this strength prefer strategic long-term thinking over tactical short-term actions. And we have this normal tendency to want to find the quick results to problems. So having somebody who really is future focused can bring in that sort of consideration of the long-term viability of the business. So, in that brainstorming session or in that innovation sessions, when you're working with your team, somebody looking at the future can help to really decipher which of those ideas, which of those solutions that are being created really have the impact on the company's customers in the short term and the long term, but also on the business to help sustain that growth. Idea generation, if you are the type of person that ideas keep bubbling up, then you'll probably score high on idea generation. And what's found is the higher the score on this scale, the more likely you'll generate fresh and unique ideas. So during times of uncertainty, we need an array of different ideas to consider. And it's really rare that the first idea is going to be that golden one. So make sure that your team has people who are great at idea generation, and they'll be able to provide those fresh and unique takes on how to solve the problems of your business and your customers. People who are strong in the skill of execution are able to take the idea and make it into a reality. They're probably known by others as the person that gets things done. And execution is really key to innovation. It's one thing to come up with great ideas and ways of solving problems, but if there aren't people who are going to take that problem, take that idea and turn it into, tangible outcomes, then all the hard work is done for nothing. Self-confidence. Innovation comes from the confidence that people have in their skills and their abilities to do great things. And during times of uncertainty, feeling the confidence of others can put the team at ease. And this can shift people out of those contracting emotions and those fixed mindsets to lay the ground for innovation. And the same with optimism. People who are optimistic always see the bright side of things. They know that things will go well and they can overcome challenges. And even though they encounter bad things, they focus on the good. So again, having people who are optimistic that, are the cheerleaders of like, we'll get through this, we'll find the right ideas, really help to bring on more innovative ideas and that energy of innovation. Persistent people are just more motivated to find ways around obstacles. They're the type of people that push through setbacks and are really resilient after failure. And it's interesting because we have seen great innovators who are persistent. And Thomas Edison always comes to my mind because it took him over 1,000 attempts to invent the light bulb. So can you imagine the persistence that you need to keep at it after failing over 1,000 times? to get your tasks done. So during uncertain times, persistent can really help a company find the right solution, and make sure you just don't give up. The last scale is really interesting, interpersonal sensitivity, because it was the only scale out of the 14 dimensions where, through the research, the entrepreneurs scored themselves lower than the corporate managers. But during times of uncertainty and innovation, interpersonal sensitivity really helps us to be more invested in finding creative solutions for the challenges that are being faced by all of our stakeholders. And this doesn't just serve you in the short term, but it really leaves that lasting positive impression that, builds customer and employee loyalty. So interpersonal sensitivity is really essential. So again, as I ran through these scales, I hope you were able to jot down some of the strengths that you see in yourself and those of your teammates. And it's important to keep in mind that, sometimes our greatest strengths can become our worst liabilities. So, I've always been very proud of my tendency to generate a lot of ideas. And my clients really appreciate the fact that I, provide them different avenues to get past their hurdles. But if I don't keep this strength in check, then I can really overwhelm them with too many options and just throw them into more confusion and hesitation. And I could do the same thing to myself and my business. So knowing where your strengths could be overplayed is really, really essential. And here are a couple of different ways that some of the other traits can be overplayed. Self confidence, we see somebody is cocky or arrogant. That's really that self confidence piece being overplayed. So, as you think about your entrepreneurial strengths, right, also consider how they might turn into liabilities and hamper that innovation and success. So, we can have a team of great people who have the traits and the skills of the entrepreneurial mindset, but if your company culture doesn't support innovation, then you're not going to bring out their best. Many small business owners don't invest the time or energy in developing a corporate culture. When you start out your business, your culture is really a representation of you. It reflects the beliefs and the behaviors that you live by, right? And it's what creates that customer experience or the brand that you become known by. Corporate culture can start to change as you bring employees in and expand your workforce. And if it's not set out clearly and modeled consistently, the people that you bring in can change the culture. Each person brings in their own beliefs on how things should be done, how they should interact with, members within your organization or customers. And sometimes this can align with your beliefs, maybe even enhance it, or sometimes it can really tarnish it. Many years ago, I had the pleasure of hearing Len Gaby. He was the co-founder with his wife, Debbie, of Sleep America. And he was talking about corporate culture. And he said something that I found so brilliant that it stuck in my mind. And he said, you could be the architect of your culture or the victim. So, have you struggled with customer complaints due to less than stellar service? Do you get frustrated that your team members don't handle situations as well as you would? Do you get bogged down with fires that stem from careless mistakes? Well, if you're saying yes to any of these questions, you might be a victim of your culture. And while you may have a clear take on what your culture is, or should I say what you want it to be, but you haven't laid it out clearly for your employees, chances are everybody's not on the same page. And when dealing with uncertainty, coming back to corporate values and beliefs can really help you steer, the company in the right direction. Remember, how our emotions can hinder our abilities to see new opportunities. So, our corporate values and our mission help to remind us what the company stands for. And this is what will provide the best direction for innovative solutions. So it's always good to start by assessing your culture. Look at the behaviors of people and see if they're primed for innovation. Do people feel comfortable in your business contributing to ideas and solutions to the problems that are being encountered? Um, do people feel comfortable speaking up? Do leaders share information openly and honestly? Is there like an overall enthusiasm within your organization under normal circumstances? Or is there, challenges with productivity and engagement? Answers to these questions can help you see if you are really ready to infuse innovation into your culture. So before you jump into the innovative process, it's really worthwhile investing time in clarifying your current or desired culture and include your team in this process. It really is helpful to get their insights. Start by defining your business mission. And your mission identifies what you do in your business. It really clearly identifies how you help your customer. And there usually isn't anything lofty about it. That's, say for your vision statement, which speaks to that meaningful impact that your company provides. But while you're sitting in uncertainty, maybe not start working on that lofty vision yet. Stay focused on writing down what your mission statement is. And when you're articulating your company mission, think about how you word it in a way that is expansive. Um, and as you work to write your mission statement, be mindful of the words and how they can help you innovate and grow. Your corporate values speak to the behaviors that are modeled by the members of the organization. And these behaviors can be as basic as how quickly emails get responded to how, significant, something more significant like how information is shared. And if values are not clearly defined and behaviors aren't consistently modeled, the culture becomes a fertile ground for others to change it, as I said. So start with maybe 3 to 5 values and take time to write down what each value means and a few of the behaviors that people need to model regularly. And as the business leader, the entrepreneur of the business, start to model those very consciously yourself. Because the more you model it, the more people will model it back to you. When I work with my clients around value identification, we start with what's called a peak experience story. And this is, it's not necessarily a happy story, but it's something of significance that has left a lasting impression on you. And from this story, we could start identifying potential values that have made this experience so special. This becomes a starting point for identifying what might be those significant values and behaviors of the company. I noticed that a lot of companies use the word integrity as one of their values to show that they do what they say they'll do. And, I invite you, as I do my clients, to not use that word as a value, but instead look deeper. Like, what is it that you always do consistently? What is it that you do? And when you do that, it's just being, just showing up with integrity. Because at the end of the day, isn't integrity just walking the walk and talking the talk, right? So don't waste your time on using integrity as a value. Really go deeper to see what truly is unique about you. And if your culture isn't clear to everyone on your team, innovation can just go off the wall. The process will lead to too many different avenues being created based on each person's interpretation of what the company stands for. So take the time and go through the process of articulating and sharing your intended culture with everyone on your team before you go into the innovation process. It really will save you a lot of time and provide you with that clear template of who you are and enable you to show up in really innovative ways to not only solve problems within your company, but in ways that are really true to who you are. Whoops. So there's a lot of research. We think of innovation as sort of brainstorming new ideas, and it's interesting because there's a lot of research that says that brainstorming doesn't work, right? And there's a couple of reasons that drive that philosophy. So let's just run through these three. And the first one is social loafing. And this is the tendency for people to make less of an effort when there are other people on the team that they're working with, and they'll put in more effort if they were working alone. And people feel less motivated to do stuff when they know that others might do it too. Um, Social anxiety is when people worry about what other team members might say about their ideas or how they might view it. And we see this when there's like low levels of trust within organizations. This really can heighten that social anxiety. It also happens when there are people on the team who have areas of expertise that are more specific to what we need feedback on or ideas on, or if people are introverts or have low self esteem, we see a lot of social anxiety there. And the final thing that stops brainstorming to be effective is conforming. And this comes back to your corporate culture. So if you're in a culture where, everybody knows that whatever ideas you pose to the owner or the leaders, they're not going to take it. They're just going to do what they want. Well, brainstorming is not going to work. These people are just going to conform. They're going to wait for the owner or the boss to provide their suggestions, their idea, and everybody's going to agree with it. I am a huge fan of the podcast Work Life by Adam Grant. And he last year he did a segment where he looked at the creative process of the Daily Show. And he spent time with Trevor Noah and his creative team to see how they create a show in one day. And he found some really interesting aspects that I want to share with you. So first, what he noticed was that the creative team, when he got there, the creative team was already sitting and talking and throwing around ideas, and there was like this great energy and enthusiasm in the room. And when Trevor Noah, the boss, walked in, what what was noticed was the energy didn't change. It still stayed that same high level, enthusiastic feel. And Adam Grant found this very interesting. And through conversations with the team members, what he discovered was that when the leader has created a high level of psychological safety for people to share, the ideas, the flow, the conversation, the enthusiasm doesn't change. It stays at that high level, right? So, you know, think about your culture. Does that provide for that free flow of idea sharing, that level of acceptance, that comfort for people to contribute? And what he also found was like in normal business meetings or conversations, interruptions are considered rude and really unacceptable behavior. But in the brainstorming sessions, the Daily Show brainstorming sessions, interruptions were really encouraged because people knew that other people were jumping in to contribute in a way that was positive and added to the idea. And nobody was there to sort of, you know, be the one that everybody went, that's the best idea. It really was about a group contribution to the end product. We talked about in the entrepreneurial mindset scales how limiting structure can impact innovation. And what was found with the Daily Show was while people needed some kind of structure to take the initial ideas and translate them into tangible outcomes, they weren't subjected to a rigid process that confined their abilities to grow the concept in their own way. So, the key takeaway for me from this podcast was that, you know, to have those innovative conversations, that brainstorming opportunity, it really does come down to the strength of the relationships within a group. And that can have the greatest impact on the innovative and creative process. And the more people know each other and create stronger bonds, then trust is built. So go back to your corporate culture, and does it support the building of safe bonds and trust? And I want to just quickly, I want to make sure we have time for any questions. So I'm just going to quickly run through this model for creating trust within your organization, because really trust stems from each of us. You know, we all have the ability to create trusting relationships, whether they're personal or within the organization, whatever role you play in the organization. And what I like about this model is that it takes trust, this big thing called trust, and it breaks it down into three areas. So I want to just quickly run through each of these areas and give you a couple of behaviors and actions that you could do to build trust. So first is the trust and character, and that's really about letting people in to see your true self. Entering times of uncertainty, it's very common for us to put up these shields of confidence or professionalism to protect our ego. We don't like to show that we don't know the answers. We don't have information to give our people. We're not in control. And, building trust in character really requires you to let down that guard. So, some behaviors that you can model to build that trust and character is, help people on your team be successful by communicating your expectations clearly and make sure that they have the tools, the resources, and the abilities to meet those expectations. And make sure the expectations aren't just serving your needs, but also serves theirs as well. Stay true to your word no matter what, and keep demonstrating consistent behavior. So if you tell somebody something like, I'll call you back in 5 minutes, make sure you do that all the time, and stand up for people on your team. Just never throw somebody under the bus to protect your ego. And those are some of the traits that will build that trust and character. Trust and communication really comes from openness and transparency. And when there is trust and communication, ideas and feedback, just that's when that safety net comes to be able to communicate and share ideas. So to build this dimension of trust, share relevant information thoroughly, and don't hold back information because it makes you feel uncomfortable. Admit your mistakes. Gosh, people don't like to admit their mistakes, and yet it, if you don't admit your mistakes, it could just chip away at the trust. And maintain confidentiality at all, you know, as much as you can. Maintain confidentiality and discourage gossip and criticism, sarcasm. That just breaks down those barriers of trust and communication. And then finally, the third is really about the trust in somebody's capabilities and showing that you believe in them. So if you micromanage or underutilize somebody's skills, then that really can damage trust in this area. So focus on, including people in the decision-making process, especially if it impacts their roles. Ask people for their insights and encourage them to share their expertise, especially the quieter ones, and help people learn and grow new things. So, including people into the innovation process is a great way to show that you trust their capabilities. Showing people that you can be trusted during times of uncertainty will help them bring down their self-protecting walls. And, the more we show these trust behaviors, they come back to us. So we covered a lot of stuff. We talked about controlling our emotions, embracing the entrepreneurial mindset, and leveraging our corporate culture. And I'm going to stop there and answer any questions you have. Just a couple of resources that I'll come back to. But are there any questions at this point? I threw a whole bunch of stuff at you.
If anyone has any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat option. And looks like we have Daniel raising his hand. So I'm going to unmute you so you can ask your question.
Hi, Daniel. Sorry, I can't hear you very well.
¿Alguien quiere algo? ¿Necesitan algo?
Gracias.
Hi, Daniel.
I think you probably pressed the wrong button, so we'll go ahead and mute.
Right.
That was
Any
kind of
other-
interesting.
Yeah.
So there was a question that came up on company culture that you mentioned. If someone doesn't fit your company culture, can they change to fit the culture, or does the manager need to let them go immediately?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think if the culture is clearly codified or written down and the behaviors, what we tend to see is that people respond to consistent behaviors. And it's almost like laughing, when you start laughing, other people start laughing too. So what we tend to see are people do respond to very consistent behaviors, and they start following suit in those behaviors. But I always believe that we need to work with people to help them adapt, to understand, how we can help them be more in line with the culture, so they can provide their best for the organization. And we have to do this in a way that is authentic with them. So, trust is a big piece, I think, of being able to align people into your culture. Because when you have the trust in their capabilities, in their character, in the communication, you can have those safer conversations to help them grow, to help them flourish and be part of the culture. So the quick answer is yes, I truly believe that with coaching, with the right support, we can get people to fit into the culture. And, with the right emphasis of work, if they feel after time, it might end up being more of a struggle for the employee, and they might decide, this is not the right fit for me. So they might end up deciding to leave. But yes, you can change someone and help them move into the culture. And with that work, if they don't fit, then it is time to help them move forward into something else.
Great. And then one other question. I'm a line level employee and my company doesn't have an innovative program or conversations to promote creativity and also brainstorm ideas. How can I recommend this to my supervisor so we can start sharing ideas?
That's awesome. I love that question. And sometimes it starts with it starts from you. It starts from you opening up those conversations. We always look to people to come up with identifying challenges and providing solutions, right? And you yourself can start that innovative process by doing just that. If you're on the line, you have that sense of, here's some issues within our organization, within the processes, or within our customer base that you're seeing. Well, you start the innovative process. Maybe even, turn to a couple of your coworkers. Let's come up with some ideas that we can present to our boss. By going into them and saying, we need to change things. I was on this great webinar and this is what we need to do. It's not going to work. So be the model of innovation. And believe me, leaders are going to love that, because they're going to see how you are evoking positive change. And that's what they want from their team members. Any other questions?
I don't see any more, Cindy, so if you would like to wrap up your slides, we're running about
Perfect.
2 more minutes or so.
Perfect. And I just want to share, so if anybody is interested in checking out Adam Grant's Work Life Pod series, highly recommended. I love it. He's a organizational psychologist. He is a professor at Wharton University, and his podcast is all about how to make work not suck. And so I have the reference here. It was the show that I was talking about, the podcast I was talking about was the Daily Show Secret to Creativity. And if any of you are interested in the entrepreneurial mindset assessment for yourself and your team members to build that strong group of innovators, I'm currently offering the assessment and a 40-minute virtual debrief at a discounted price during this COVID social isolation for $99 per person. It's normally $179. So it's really a great time to take advantage of this tool and the great price, but to get that clear sense of how can I utilize like my strengths in relationship to my goals. And if you're interested, you could just go onto my website, www.businessrescuecoaching.com/EMP. And that's all I've got. If you have any other questions, I appreciate you attending. Please, if there's any other questions or if there's a problem that you're having that I can help solve, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm really happy to help. And thank you. Thank you to the BBB for providing me this opportunity to share.
Thank you so much, Cindy, for this valuable information. We really enjoyed your whole presentation and your valued expertise. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day too. I know you are a very busy business owner as well during this time. Once again, this webinar was recorded, so if you did miss any part of it, it will be posted in 1 to 2 business days on events.bbcommunity.org. If you have any follow-up questions, please reach out to Cindy, or if you don't get her email, I know we have a couple listen-in only webinar attendees. So it's Cindy with the Y at businessrescuecoaching.com, or you can send an email to me because I will send out the link to the webinar for all the attendees today. Thank you everyone for attending. Please have a great day and stay safe out there.